It is my major honor to be visiting today with Sister Joy Alford. Sister Joy is well known in our local area here in Maryland, the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., and Virginia, and increasingly well beyond in our country and internationally for all of her wonderful poetry, which she's published quite a bit of, for her trailblazing poet laureateship of what's called Prince George's County, that's in Maryland, USA, for her role in the Anointed Pens, a group of very active poets based at her church. And she is, in fact, head of poetry at her church. And maybe, Sister Joy, you can mention that here in just a moment as well. She has also hosted a television show called Sojourn with Words, during which she's interviewed countless poets and others for cable television here in our area. And she's well known as being an amazing interviewer. So it's my honor to be interviewing her today. She also founded a very potent group of poets called Collective Voices, which again, in the greater DMV, District, Maryland, and Virginia, has over the many years spoken up and out about all sorts of social issues and then just generally the joy of poetry. So it is a real grin to host Sister Joy today on this video clip. Sister Joy, is there anything that you'd like to expand upon or add to in terms of your pretty amazing bio?
Well, Hiram, first and foremost, let me thank you for this opportunity to share with folks who have connected with Hiram LaRue, who is quite the poet and literary leader in his own right. Speaking of literary leaders, there is a group that I established here in Prince George's County called Literary Leaders. And these are poets who have demonstrated over the years their interest and their ability to create opportunities and poetry and bring others on board. So literary leaders is something that you'll be hearing more about, and certainly persons can be in touch if they're interested in knowing what we're up to.
Wonderful. Well, as I said, we're just so pleased to have you here today. You've contributed in all sorts of ways to the Poetry Ex Hunger effort. You've contributed poems that are posted on the website, and I think we'll hear an excerpt of one of those poems as we close today's visit. You are also, as I mentioned, an advisory member of the team that helps guide Poetry Ex Hunger. And in so many other ways, as I've mentioned, you're a poetry leader in the community, in the state, really in the country and around the world. How do you, as such a leader, see the role of poetry in speaking up and back to hunger? How do you see poetry playing a role in the anti-hunger cause?
Well, as a poet and as a woman of conscience, I do believe, and I should say as a woman of faith, I believe there is power in the word. And of course, poetry is the word. And when we speak to issues of significance, such as hunger, locally and globally, we have the opportunity and indeed the responsibility to bring awareness and to bring activism by persons who are in a position to do so. If something is not on our radar, poetry is that vehicle through which we can inform, we can educate, we can entertain even. So poetry is a multifaceted vehicle through which we can make change if we only lift the voice through the issues of poetry.
I often say that, yes, we need all the hunger statistics and trend lines and data, and we need all the scientists trying to solve the hunger issue. I also say that poetry probably won't solve the hunger problem, but I also say that if we leave poetry out of their toolkit, and that we use to fight back hunger, then we leave a tool behind that can grab hearts, minds, and spirits and souls and really move people to action.
Absolutely, absolutely. Poetry is that soothing and that not just soothing, but that powerful tool that brings awareness and brings the opportunity for everyone to lift their voice, to be heard. And that includes those who have experienced hunger as well as those who have not. You do not have to be one who is affected directly by hunger by virtue of experiencing it in your lifetime. But poetry, because of the issue, because of empathy and compassion, which are significant in the world of poetry, then we have just the opportunity and the responsibility to lift that word, to lift that message, to bring opportunities of activism, because we have to act.
We have to act, activate and act. And I couldn't agree more that everyone has a poem in them about hunger that can help contribute to the anti-hunger cause. Absolutely, those who have experienced hunger and hopefully have been lucky enough to escape it can look back and write some incredibly authentic and powerful poems. But everyone else, even those of us who have been so fortunate not to have been hungry, I think have a lot to offer through our work, the anti-hunger cause. So as a contributor to Poetry X Hunger, do you have any thoughts on looking ahead, looking down the road, using your crystal ball? Are there things that you would think that Poetry X Hunger should consider doing, or places it should be that would make a difference, as I say, in the look ahead mode?
Well, I don't know that Poetry X Hunger has really connected with local schools across this country or elsewhere, but certainly the issue of hunger in schools is paramount. As we know, children cannot learn if they are hungry. The issue, we cannot expect them to focus on even what a teacher, the most dynamic, the most engaging, the most credentialed teacher has to offer if they're combating and handling the issue of a growling stomach or a headache that won't quit because they've not, and so the schools, of course, have addressed this to some degree by providing free lunches and breakfast and those types of things. But hunger, certainly Poetry X Hunger can, I think, capture the eyes and ears and even the pens of these young children who their innocence, I believe, will give us the purest messages on the issue of hunger affecting the future because it affects the youth.
That's a wonderful point. Working to engage the school kids, the teachers, obviously, even the principals, in the Poetry X Hunger cause is something that we need to redouble our efforts on, because as you've said, there are no more powerful voices speaking back to hunger than the young voices that we've enlisted. They are amazingly rousing and heartfelt. So excellent point. And I might circle back to you in the coming months to get more of your ideas about how we might activate that vision. So as we close down, I wondered if you would grace us with one of your amazing poems or an excerpt of one that has been perhaps posted on Poetry X Hunger.
Well, I certainly would be happy to. I have an excerpt of a poem that is on the site. The poem is titled, Did They Know? And this is a segment of that poem, and I'll reference John 21:17, feed my sheep, as my entry point to the poem. Feed my sheep takes on new meaning in times like these, when schools can no longer fill the void for families stretched beyond self-sufficiency, past the point of ability to purchase their own. No longer do neighbors glare, cast dispersions of shame, for they too wait in food lines along streets leading to churches, dispensing boxes filled with crops grown by farmers who never knew they'd be the saving grace of a nation in need of a new reason to go to church.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, those farmers are definitely the saving grace of our food systems, and you are a saving grace of our poetry community, Sister Joy. We're just so honored and blessed to have you amongst us, working on all sorts of social issues, and then just working in that amazing arena of expressing the joy of poetry. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all your work, and keep going.
Thank you, Hiram, for this and for all you and Poetry X Hunger do for the issues that affect the world.
Thank you, Sister Joy.